Welcome to another episode of Game Changers for Government Contractors. I'm your host, Michael Lejeune. And today we're going to be talking about a topic I have never talked about probably in any way, shape, or form. We're going to be talking about Wikipedia with Jenny and Ree here. Before we get into the topic, Jenny, why don't you kick us off with a little bit of who you are and what you do, and then Ree follow that up so people can learn a little bit about who each of you are.
Yeah, hi, I'm Jenny Karn. Thanks so much for having us. We're excited to share all we know about the wild, wonderful world of Wikipedia with you today. And I co founded Lumino, and our agency helps brands and notable individuals edit and update Wikipedia articles. So we're excited to share how that can help government contractors, especially in the age of AI.
And I'm Ree Ruff, like Jenny mentioned, one of the co-founders at Lumino. And I have been doing Wikipedia consulting for a really long time now, coming up on like 13 years of consulting about this very niche topic. So if there's something that's happening on Wikipedia, it's very likely that I've seen it before or can at least figure out what the heck's going on.
That's awesome. And, Jenny, you kind of gave the short overview on the company, but that's not all you do. You guys do a lot of marketing stuff, and you've worked for us on the marketing and branding and rebranding campaign that we've been working on for seems like 17 years now, but it's only been, I think, 2 years. You worked on that kind of stuff. And so one of the things that I like to tell people when I have guests on like yourself is I don't bring on people that, or typically don't bring on people that I don't know and haven't worked with. There's a few of our guests, but you are one of those guests that we've worked with your company. I love working with you. You're like your style of the way you do things and just kind of overall what Lumino does. And so you're one of those companies I want to make sure people understand out of the gate that we do endorse and we like working with you and we appreciate the work you do. And I think just saying you guys are Wikipedia experts really is like the under promise here on what you guys can and will do for people. So I just want to start with that.
Well, thank you for that.
You're welcome.
Yeah, thank you.
You're welcome. You're welcome. Ree, this is the first time we've met, so it'll be interesting to kind of go through things. And I heard the slight accent there when you started talking last night. Where originally you're from?
I'm originally from the north of England.
Oh, nice. Cool.
Yeah.
Cool. And are you over here now, or where do you live?
Yeah, so I live in Northeast Ohio, and I've been out here for 15 years. Yes.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
That's awesome. How'd you pick Ohio?
I did not. Ohio picked us. My husband's academic. He was he had a teaching role at University of Toledo and now at Kent State.
Oh, that's awesome. That's awesome. Not the Ohio State University?
Okay. No, not the Ohio State.
Yeah, I'm not a big university person. I won't hold that against you. And Jenny, you're in Kansas, right?
Oklahoma.
Oh, you're in Oklahoma. I don't know why I was thinking you were in Kansas. So where are you at in Oklahoma?
Oklahoma City.
Oklahoma City. That's awesome. So cool. Your position. Yeah, go Thunder. You're in a great position. Yeah, I mean, for them to win this year, that was awesome.
That was big. Cool. That was big.
That was a big deal. So now that we know where everybody is, but I think most people know I'm in East Tennessee. I've kind of lived all over the place, but we're in East Tennessee, and it kind of chose me, kind of like you were saying there, Ree. So I didn't necessarily choose it, but I'm kind of a little bit all over the country here. Let's dive in and let's talk Wikipedia. So I'm going to ask the dumbest question first, because I think a lot of people have heard of Wikipedia. They've used it in one way, shape, or form. They clicked on something that took them into Wikipedia, and they've explored something, whether it was by accident or on purpose or whatever. But for those that aren't aware, because there's things that you were sharing right before the podcast that I'm like, oh, I'm not aware of that. Let's start off with the overview of what is Wikipedia and what isn't Wikipedia.
Oh boy. I think a lot of people have a misunderstanding about what Wikipedia is because we're at a point now where everyone's touched Wikipedia in some way. And when you're at school, you're told like Wikipedia isn't reliable, like use something else. And then when you're in college, maybe you've had a class where you've been shown how to navigate Wikipedia. Maybe it's been part of your course to try and update a page on Wikipedia. And then, all kinds of different experiences once you get into the world of work. You hear about interns all the time being told, go and update Wikipedia for our company. I like to kind of pull back from all of that because I think that a lot of people just don't know the basics about Wikipedia. So the best way to think about Wikipedia is it is a volunteer community that's building an encyclopedia. It's not an informational website that has a staff, that has paid people who are organizing that content, who you can reach out to if you have questions, anything like that. It's really different from all those other types of like informational platforms out there. It is much more like, I use this a lot, it's like Reddit building an encyclopedia. You've got this community who are self-governing, they are creating all this content, they are updating this content, and technically anyone can go in and edit Wikipedia. You can go in, you don't need to create an account on the site, but if you do it, it helps. And then for the most part, the people who are editing Wikipedia a lot, they are really forming like the core of the site. Those are the people who are doing all of the work to create what it is you see when you go and look up like sourdough bread and you click through onto that page and you take a look about the history and all those types of things. So you have these folks who just really love the idea of Wikipedia as being this open source, non-promotional, non-affiliated with anyone, independent site where you can have lots of information about different topics.
You almost took me down the sourdough rabbit trail there, because I could definitely do that. I'm struggling with my sourdough starter at the moment. So
Isn't everyone?
it's one of those things. Like, I almost, as you were talking, I'm like, I bet there's people on here who don't know what an encyclopedia is, but we'll let them Google that and see what happens. Maybe it'll come up on Wikipedia. And
Yeah.
we'll leave some mystery to the episode a little bit there. But why should government contractors care about Wikipedia in 2025? I mean, we've got AI doing a lot of different things out there. You know, AI is now embedded in Google search. If people turn it on, there's a little beaker thing in your Chrome browser. You can turn that on. Now you've got AI in there. You've got ChatGPT. So why should, in your opinion, government contractors, our core audience, care about this?
So we've already talked a lot about how you've landed on Wikipedia. But what I think is really important to understand is that even if you're not clicking through to a Wikipedia article, you are almost certainly engaging with content from Wikipedia across your devices. Wikipedia is used all over the place. So even before AI, just if you go to your Google search and you type in a term or a brand or a person, almost certainly something from Wikipedia is going to show up in that first page of search results. So maybe it's a company that has a Wikipedia article. You're probably going to see the company's website first, and then directly underneath that, you're going to see the company's Wikipedia article. However, if that company also has a knowledge panel, that vertical box to the right of your search results, almost all of that information is coming straight from Wikipedia, empowering that Google Knowledge panel. Maybe you don't have access to your computer right now, and so you're just going to ask Siri or Alexa about this particular brand. Well, it's going to read from that Wikipedia article. That's where those devices are getting that information. Even social media uses Wikipedia to verify different brands. So if I am trying to prove that I am the real ABC brand, I can give Twitter, or I guess X, I can give Meta my Wikipedia article and it will validate, oh, this is a real brand. They get the check mark. They are real. So all of these different sites, all of these different web interfaces are referencing Wikipedia. Now we come to the age of AI search. And if I'm not going to my search bar, but instead I'm going to my ChatGPT and asking about a brand, well, it's pulling from Wikipedia again. And oftentimes, even more so than it's pulling from your company website. And there are a lot of reasons for this. It is because Wikipedia is completely open source. So everything on it, you're allowed to reference. You're not going to get sued for referencing information from Wikipedia. It is intended to be consumed by the public. It is very well organized, especially in the way that AI wants questions answered. Wikipedia does that. It uses very straightforward encyclopedic language that answers questions directly without a lot of fluff or marketing speak. And lastly, despite what some of your teachers might have told you, you can't trust Wikipedia, it is actually a very trustworthy site because everything that is on Wikipedia has to be sourced to a news article written by a journalist who has, in theory, fact-checked that information. So they've really completely outsourced their vetting of content to journalists. But that means that the content that lands on Wikipedia is very well vetted and trustworthy. So for all of these reasons, these algorithms love Wikipedia and it is everywhere. But that means that your brand, if you want people finding and discovering you want to be on Wikipedia and you want to make sure you're accurately represented there.
Yeah, that's fascinating. Like one of the things I noticed when I started turning AI on, like in the browser and things like that, is just the difference in your search results. Like the first things where it says generating and then it gives you results. You're like, oh, this looks more factual and it doesn't look as biased as, say, some of the other stuff. Because traditionally, when you do a search in Google, like the first 10 things that show up are all paid. Whether it is a blog that has got 5 million views and now it's got all these ads and things in it, it's getting up there because one, it's got the views, it's a trusted source, but they're also a lot of times paying to be in those search results in one way, shape, or form. Where like the AI it doesn't care who paid what. And like you said, being able to go into Wikipedia and find this information. I've always trusted and liked the info in Wikipedia. I was not in the school generation where they told you not to use it because I don't think it was around when I was in school. I'm not sure. But to me, it's fascinating and to see how Wikipedia is influencing the AI tools. Maybe talk about that a little bit deeper, because you kind of went into that a bit, but how else is it actually influencing like your chat GPTs and Copilot and all those tools?
Well, Wikipedia has been used to train essentially every AI tool that you've heard of. There are some exceptions where Wikipedia is not part of the training set, but those are very rare tools or enterprise tools or tools where there are specific reasons that you wouldn't want Wikipedia. But for the most part, it is a training source. So even if it's not specifically referencing Wikipedia as a source for whatever answer you've asked for, that tool was still trained on Wikipedia. It learned how we talk through Wikipedia. So it's foundational really in all of these tools. But
Yeah,
ChatGPT, which is currently still by far the dominant player in the AI search game. I think the latest data we were looking at, something like 65% market share is ChatGPT. Its number one source is Wikipedia. That is the thing that it cites most frequently. So if you want to be a player in AI search, then you have to consider ChatGPT, and ChatGPT is considering Wikipedia, guaranteed.
that makes a lot of sense. And I think back to some of the movies where, like, I think even the first Transformers, where they were like, how does he learn to speak? And like, oh, he's listening to the radio or whatever. And how we speak and think and talk and all that, how AI tools, like, you don't necessarily think like, how do they figure out that type of stuff? Because I was interacting with it today and I've seen the little icon in chat GPT, which I'm a chat GPT user, and I never really pressed the one where it looks like kind of like a little sound wave, and so you're just talking with it instead of actually typing. And I was like, hey, can you change your voice? Can you change the speed? Can you change, like, can you pretend like you're from Australia? So I'm like, oh, I can have a more laid back approach to this and throw in some Aussie slang and whatever. And so it's like, where did it learn that? Right? Like, where's it learning all those types of things? And so I never really thought about that aspect of it. Can you explain, like, I understand part of it here, but can you explain why, I guess it's just sheer volume of what's in Wikipedia, why Wikipedia entries are so trusted and show up as those first impressions? Because I do notice that. And if I'm a government contractor, if I'm smaller, it may not be the case, but definitely on the bigger government contractors, like you said, there may be their website and then a Wikipedia entry. And that you were talking earlier before the podcast about the difference between like company pages, personal stuff, and like articles and things like that. Maybe you can kind of tie that into why those show up and then what those different levels are.
Okay, well, how about I first answer why they're showing up, and then we'll let Ree talk about what topics get pages or get Wikipedia articles. So why they're showing up, again, it's algorithms love Wikipedia for these basic reasons. It is open source. It is so comprehensive. It has information about so many different topics, and that it is organized in a way that a machine or an algorithm can process really easily. Even more so than humans, perhaps. So it's just ideal for algorithms to reference Wikipedia. And that's why we see it over and over and over again in all of these different tools. And even now, as search is moving from Google to ChatGPT, we're still seeing Wikipedia being such a dominant player because of those factors. And then additionally, it is a very trusted resource because everything on it has been vetted via journalism. So that's why we're seeing it show up over and over again.
Can you explain how these pages come about? Because there's a lot of times I think an influencer or a brand will be like, we have a Wikipedia? Where did that come from? And it's there. And there's some people that are actively trying to get those things published, regardless of what it is. Whichever one of you can you explain like how those things come about in Wikipedia to begin with, and then we'll break down like what the three mean.
Yeah, sure. So I think that's a great question because I think a lot of people are confused about where do pages come from on Wikipedia? How do I suddenly have a page when I didn't before? Where's my page gone when I had one for a while and now it's disappeared on me? These are questions we get quite a lot. Basically, the main indicator as to whether or not you could have a Wikipedia page, whether it's about a company, a person, whatever thing it might be, is third-party coverage. And for most people and companies, that's going to be media coverage. You need to have earned media coverage that's really in-depth, super detailed, goes into a lot of information about your organization, how it was founded, how the business operates, all those types of things. It's a super high bar, and it's only gotten more strict as time goes on. So the reason that most people or companies end up with pages is because of just like general interest. People who are community members on Wikipedia, they are constantly looking for opportunities to expand upon what's already on the site or to add new pages. So they just do that based on what they see in the media. If there's suddenly a lot of coverage about a company, they're going to look at that and think, maybe this should have a Wikipedia page, because that's always in their mind. Like this is like their big hobby or their big interest. So they're looking at that. And likewise, people who are just like, maybe like the big fans of a particular brand or big haters on the other side. That's another aspect too. Sometimes you have people who just really dislike an organization or a person, and they're going to create this Wikipedia page for them. So it's either strong interest on behalf of the person, the company, the organization, or it's interest from the Wikipedia community to create that page. And again, they just go and look at what is out there in those third-party sources, again, mostly media for most organizations, and they will write the page based on that. So that's how these pages kind of pop into existence. It's usually there's like some sort of spark point, like, for people, maybe they suddenly have like a much more high profile role. Maybe they get appointed into a government position, for instance, and suddenly that increases their profile and their media coverage likewise. And then editors will be interested to create a page for them.
So can someone like myself get a Wikipedia? I've never even searched to see if I have one. Can someone like myself just get one? Like, hey, I've got 15, 20,000 followers on LinkedIn. I've been covered by CNN and Fox Business and a few other people, but just a line in there. Hey, we asked Michael Lejeune, government expert, blah, 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 about this or that. There's not been any in-depth articles or anything like that on me personally. So would someone like me meet that bar, or like I'm not even in the realm of that?
Yeah, no. And it used to be a lot easier for people and companies to get Wikipedia pages. So something that we hear quite a lot these days is people coming to us and saying, I used to have a Wikipedia page. I had one for a really long time and now it's gone. And it's really kind of Wikipedia's evolution in a way, that it's gone from just like, let's get as many pages about as many things as possible to like, maybe we should just focus in on those things that are actually encyclopedic. Let's pare back a little bit. We don't want to be a directory of every single person or company or all those types of things. So they are really strict. They want to see that you don't just have a few mentions or quotes in press. They want to see that there's been like 3 or 4 profile pieces about you in good mainstream outlets that are reputable. Not Q&As, not just like interviews where everything is like, according to Michael. As Michael said, they want to see that the journalist has written about you, kind of explained like why you are unique, why you are special and encyclopedic, basically. And then you would qualify for a Wikipedia page. So it's definitely really tough. A lot of people and organizations don't qualify. We hear a lot from people who are like, well, that's really strict. How do we get around that? And you just don't. But something else that I would bring up is that it used to be like a long time back when I was starting this, we had a lot of interest from organizations about pages on Wikipedia that aren't necessarily about a person or a company, but instead are about like a broader topic. So maybe it's about like a type of electrical wire, or maybe it's about like a cybersecurity protocol. And those are the types of pages that I used to help out with like 11, 12 years ago, because people were concerned about the technical information in those being correct and not influencing their buyers or their audience. And then that went away. And I think that this was SEO. I think that, like you were saying before, that paid content was getting pushed up in search. And so people were less concerned about what was on Wikipedia for a while. But now AI is resurfacing that type of content again. We're getting a lot more interest these days from companies or organizations who don't necessarily have a Wikipedia page for themselves, but they are seeing pages that are about topics that are related to their services or the products that they're selling. And they're really concerned that that information is outdated, and that when their audience are going and searching for information about this, or when they're asking ChatGPT about it, they're getting a misrepresentation. And so, maybe like that, that technical aspect is no longer correct on Wikipedia, and it seems like that's not the way to go for that person, but in fact it would be. So that's kind of coming back around again now. So just to kind of like take it back to your original question about types of Wikipedia pages, there's Wikipedia pages about all kinds of things. So you can have Wikipedia pages that's about a person, about a company, about a place, about a thing. So, a tree, particular type of tree. And then you can have ones that are really about very kind of like technical and specific topics, especially scientific topics. There are all kinds of Wikipedia pages about those, because you have academic research, which Wikipedia editors love as a source. But those pages get left behind in getting updated because the community is only so big and there's only so many of them that can be actively updating. And any of these technical topics, you really need to have specialist knowledge to be able to update them. So someone can come along and look at that page and be like, oh no, this hasn't been touched since 2015. This is definitely way out of date, but they don't know what to do with it. So this is where I can see maybe a lot of your audience actually might have some concerns, is that there might be pages around like their areas of service that are out there that if people are asking questions in AI, might be getting some really outdated information.
That's exactly where I was thinking as you were talking about how, whether it's a technical thing or something specific to the market, whether it's an executive order or something like that, especially right
Yeah.
now, like we're recording this in the summer of 25. We've just gone through a slew of executive orders that have changed a lot of different things. And that happens every time there's a new president. And the challenge with it is you can be searching things on Google and it be talking about the way it was, not the way it is. And
Mm-hmm.
that stuff hasn't been updated. And then you start to look at company websites where they are talking about either something technical or how to use them. And the thing they're talking about doesn't exist anymore, or it's not relevant anymore because of the speed at which things move. So if I'm one of those companies and let's say there's an article that was published on me, or there's some info about our company, or just something in there that's wrong, how do I go about getting that fixed?
That's a great question. So I think the first thing is identifying where it's coming from. So if you don't know it's from Wikipedia, you can see that Wikipedia page, you can see that incorrect information. What is that tied to? Is there a source there? If there's not, then that makes it a lot easier. If there is a source, do you have a new source that would correct it? These are all the things that I recommend thinking about first. You don't want to immediately think about like, okay, I've got to logistically, how do I fix this on Wikipedia? Let's take a step back and think about like, can we fix it? What are the steps we need to put in place first? So that's the first thing, is like, do you have good sourcing that's going to help to fix this information? So has there been some media coverage that clarifies this? Has there maybe been an academic paper about this? Something that you could use in order to correct this. And unfortunately, you can't use like company websites or press releases. Anything like that is not going to be usable for Wikipedia. So it really does have to be these very much independent, third-party, vetted sources to be able to use for the site. Now, if you don't have those, I'm afraid I'm not much to help to you, but you probably want to talk to a PR person to figure out how you get those. But if you do have those, then there is a way to update this on Wikipedia, but you can't be sneaky about it. That's something I think a lot of people in the past thought, that like, oh, Wikipedia doesn't want companies to get involved, so I'm going to have to like do this, anonymously, and maybe I'll get like a couple of people in my office to try and do this in little bits. It's actually not what Wikipedia editors want at all. If something's wrong, they would love for you to come along and explain and provide a source and help to fix it, but they don't want you to do this in a non-transparent way. They want you to disclose who you are and go and share with them that source and say, hey, I know I have a vested interest here, but here, this is incorrect. This is why. Here's this news source, and here's how it should read and said. And then can someone fix this for me? And you do all this through everything on Wikipedia. Although you can go in and edit it yourself, if you have that type of connection to it, you really shouldn't. But you can use the site's discussion pages. And if you're an old school internet user, like maybe some of us on this podcast here, you might remember like sort of discussion forums and like, online notice board type things. It's very much like that on Wikipedia. Behind every single Wikipedia page, there's a talk page. And that is just like a discussion forum for that particular page. So you can go there, you can make a post on there that's like, hey, editors, I'm here from Acme Co. This page has some incorrect information about widget X, and I have some sources to correct it. Can you change this to this? Here's my source. Hope someone can help. And then, Spider Monkey number 3 is going to come in and say, thanks so much for bringing this to our attention, John from Acme Co. I'm going to go fix this for you. And that's ideally how it should work. So they want you to be transparent, disclose, use these discussion forums, these talk pages to offer up changes, and then they'll fix it for you. It's not quick, but doing it this way means it's going to stick. Because if you just go in and make that change and they think it's coming from someone who has a conflict of interest, they might just undo it. And then it's really frustrating. You just get into this back and forth of like, why won't this stay? This is correct information. And the more annoyed you get with it, the more frustrating it's going to be, because you're going to get frustrated and keep typing like, stop changing my edit. And then editors are going to be like, why is this person being so aggro? I don't understand.
Yeah.
So you really just take the slow, steady approach, be transparent, and ultimately, if you have good sourcing, you're going to get that change made.
So 2 questions based on that, which great explanation. One is, where do you find the talk or whatever it is, discussion board piece? Is it at the top, the bottom, somewhere else? That's number 1. And number 2,
Yeah.
what does the timeline look like when you submit that stuff? Is it days, weeks, months? What are you looking at?
Yeah. So great question, because I think this is confusing to a lot of people. Like, where is this hidden? So if you look at a Wikipedia page, you'll see like the name of the page up at the top. So, let's go back to our sourdough bread one. So immediately below that, you'll see there's like 2 little things. One of them says article, one of them says talk, and you just click on where it says talk. And then that will bring up the talk page. And then there's a button at the top right that says add topic. And that's what you want to click. And it creates a new section for you on the page with a little heading box, and then a box to put in your description, which is where you put in like your, hi, I'm such and such, here's my source, and all that kind of jazz.
Okay, awesome.
Yeah. And I've already forgotten what the other aspect of your question was. I'm so sorry.
The timeline.
Timeline. Yeah. So timeline-wise, it does take a little bit of time, and it really depends on how interesting the article is to the Wikipedia community. So whether there are people watching that page, whether there are already a bunch of editors who are active on that page. If there's not, you might be waiting a while. It kind of goes into a queue, and then you're just going to be sitting waiting for a little while. So it can be a couple of months. But if you are on an active page, sometimes it's just, hours or days. So it really does depend. It's very variable just because of the nature of the site.
So like a good example would be like if I was updating something on the mayor of Watauga, Tennessee, which is where I live, population 354. He's the mayor, the fire chief, and 18 other things. There's that versus the mayor of Chicago, 3 billion people or whatever it is. I don't know. It's not 3 billion, but you know what I mean? The difference between who's being covered all the time. Like, I don't know that there's anything ever been written about the mayor of Watauga, where there's probably things by the hour being written about the mayor of Chicago. And so I can see that being a different priority level. Like he didn't win the biggest bass fishing thing in the state of Tennessee, where the other one is like, yes, they did drop this budget thing, and here's what the answers are to that question.
It's actually a really funny example to pick, because sometimes those pages about like a local community member, those ones can have quite an active editor audience, because you have local people who are really interested in that topic. So if you have like one person in your town who's super into Wikipedia, they're watching that page and they're going to respond to you real quick. So I'd say that a better comparison is something like a big company versus like a small technical topic. Yeah. So, say like Tesla, like someone's going to respond in minutes to any kind of post on that talk page. But if you are going to go to the Wikipedia page about like tensile strength, you might be waiting several weeks for one of the Wikipedia's scientific community to pop by and be like, oh yeah, I can help with that.
Yeah, there's a comment that's been on here for 2 months.
Yeah.
Yeah. So talk to me a little bit about, if I'm a government contractor, small or big, doesn't matter. Should I have a Wikipedia strategy for my business? And if so, like, what is like the 2 or 3 things you recommend for their Wikipedia strategy?
Yes, but it's going to really depend on the government contractor themselves. So it will depend if they already have a Wikipedia page. If they do have a page either for like their company or maybe for 1 or 2 of their executives, then their approach is going to be a bit different than if they are just, maybe a smaller company, and then their interest is going to be more focused around like their service product area. That's where they're going to want to be more focused. So say you're a government contractor and you have a Wikipedia presence in some aspect here. You've got a company page or an executive page. First thing you're going to want to do is bake that in as part of your monitoring. You're already doing media monitoring, you're doing social media monitoring, most likely just put Wikipedia in as part of that, and make sure that you're doing regular sweeps of those pages just to check that basic information is kept up to date. You also want to make sure that you're putting out accurate and up-to-date information, because it can't go on Wikipedia if it's not already out there somewhere. So just like your basic info, like who is the CEO and the president and how many employees you have and where your headquarters is, that's good on your website or in your annual report. Just make sure you're making that public and available. If there are other things that you want people to know about your business model, about the fact that you've been pivoting with all of these executive orders and now you're focused on this one particular area that's of high importance, that's going to need to go out in your media strategy. Jenny's little soundbite about this is that, Wikipedia is the end of your media journey. And that's really very much the case. Like you have to kind of, in a way, Wikipedia is just like one little puzzle piece of your overall digital presence. It's just a very powerful puzzle piece. So be thinking about that media as like, that's the first place that your information needs to go, so that ultimately it can end up on Wikipedia, so that then it's going to feed into AI. The other thing that we recommend these days, and this counts for like any type of government contractor, is doing regular AI checks. Key prompts that you think that your audience might be using. Maybe you think that they're looking into similar vendors. So maybe it's like, whatever area it is that you support, you go and you type into ChatGPT, who are the top vendors for X government services, whatever it might be, and just see what those responses are and check and see whether it's pulling in, anything from Wikipedia there. So you can look at the sources and see whether that's an aspect that's contributing to those. And likewise, you can sort of do the reverse as well. You can, for your service area, maybe click around on Wikipedia to see if there are any pages on the site that might have incorrect information that might be contributing to AI or search responses that might be influencing your audience. So it's kind of a multi-pronged thing. There's no kind of one size fits all here. You do have to tailor a little bit for your particular company. But I think the main thing is thinking about it as like, okay, well, first I need to have the information out there, then it could be on Wikipedia. And then secondly, how is Wikipedia likely to be affecting my digital presence? Is it a direct issue of like having a Wikipedia page, or is it more that this is going to influence people's buyer journey in general?
To me, this is all fascinating stuff because I'm a research guy. I'm an analyst by trade. I'm a research guy. I love researching things, connecting dots, and looking at the sources and all that kind of stuff. I genuinely enjoy doing this kind of thing. So I have a question here. It probably a little bit outside the box on like how some people may be trying, I don't know if succeeding is the right word, to hack getting their Wikipedia page. And the reason I was thinking about this is you're talking about this being the end of your media journey, basically. And the in the government market, there's a lot of different popular magazines. There's magazines you've never heard of. There's other companies that sell media in big publications like Wall Street Journal and different things like that. And one of the things over the last, I don't know, decade plus that I've seen a lot of interest in those companies is just trying to get you the branded logos of as seen on or in all of those different media platforms where they actually sell a piece on you where it'll be, you pay $5,000, $10,000 and they give you, you give them a headshot, you give them your bio, and they write a piece on you like, here's Michael Lejeune, and he's an executive at RSM Federal, and blah, blah, blah. He grew up in Louisiana and, blah, and did all these things so that now you can use the as seen in ABC, Fox Business, CNN, all those types of things, right? There's a lot of them that do that are like, hey, now you've been published in, whatever magazine, and there's a profile on you. Are those sources things that people can use to submit to Wikipedia to get those personal or company pages? Or are those things where Wikipedia says, I see it's a profile on you, but I'm 99% sure you just paid for it to be in the Wall Street Journal? Like Wall Street Journal didn't have a reporter from Wall Street Journal who called you and did an expose on you or your company or a full page profile. This is clearly an ad that you paid for, so we know it's biased towards you. Like, are you familiar with that type of advertising and
Yeah.
branding? And like, are those ways people are hacking this, or does Wikipedia is Wikipedia outsmarting that play? Because I can see people using it.
Yeah, Wikipedia editors are aware. This is really like part and parcel of that whole like becoming more strict, and they are really specific about the types of media coverage that they are willing to accept. Now, do they catch all of those? Maybe not. If it's a particularly well done one and it isn't flagged as being advertorial or paid content or contributor piece, then maybe they're not catching it. If it isn't tagged any of those, it's an immediate no. Like you can't even use that as a source on Wikipedia. They don't like to use those as references at all. But, those bigger outlets, if they are selling a piece and it is with a journalist, it has a byline, and it looks otherwise like a profile, sometimes it's hard to tell.
Mm-hmm.
But I would say for the most part, Wikipedia editors can tell. There's like, not to be too kind of harsh here, but there's a style of those pieces. I think that
Mm-hmm.
you're aware of this too,
Yep.
where it's just like, it's like a laundry list of this person's achievements and things,
Yep.
but there's no real substance to the piece. There's no real hook as to why we're talking about this person or this company. Wikipedia editors can pick up on that. They're like, this reads very much like a
Yeah.
PR puff piece, is
Yep.
the phrasing that they like to use. So, yeah, you can try, but Wikipedia editors are very much aware.
That's awesome. I'm glad and I'm glad I brought it up because one of the things that I like to expose, if you will, is I wouldn't necessarily call it a scam, but marketing people are really good at trying to convince you that if you pay $10,000
Oh,
to
yeah.
be in the Wall Street Journal, that this is going to take your brand to a whole other level. And typically the way they do it, because I worked for a company like this decades ago, and the way they would do it is they would buy it discount, and they buy it in regional. So you would wind up in like the, I don't want to say the greater Ohio area, but like some little
Yeah.
area regional Wall Street Journal where literally there's like, 500 papers printed of that edition, and you wound up in that, and there's a link online, and they're like, oh, we're in the Wall Street Journal. I'm like, yeah, but there's only like 200 people in Ohio that saw it. There was nobody in DC. It wasn't national, but yeah, you were technically in Wall Street Journal. And to me, those things are just, they're not very helpful for a brand in just about any way other than, hey, you can put the as seen in Wall Street Journal now on your website, which I don't know if you guys know, you probably do given the market you're in, but you can literally go into, oh gosh, what is it, Fiverr? and pay somebody $20 and get 200 logos on your website in 5 minutes, because they're going to publish an article about you. It's going to be on all those websites in 5 minutes, and they're good at how they do it. But it's like a backlink of a backlink of a back, like it's way hidden. And I just see too many people getting ripped off with stuff like that in marketing, and so like
Yeah.
I don't like seeing it. So I'm glad you kind of exposed that as a not a way to hack this system. In the like minute or so we've got left, what's your final piece of advice to government contractors?
Mine would definitely be, when you stop this podcast, or maybe if you're at your computer, go ahead and do it while you're listening. Search your company, or ask a question that you would love your government buyer to be asking in whatever AI tool you like, whether that's ChatGPT, or maybe you're a Gemini fan or a Copilot fan. Go in, type that query, and see what comes up. And then kind of go down the rabbit hole for a second. What sources is it pulling from? Are there any where you're mentioned? Are there any that are inaccurate? Is there anything that you could change or optimize? That is where I would start, because that is where your buyer is probably going to be starting. If not today, in the coming weeks, months, certainly years, that's the direction that search is going. If you want to be on the cutting edge and show up when they're looking, you need to start thinking about that yesterday, or right now is the next best time.
Yeah, awesome. Ree, any final thoughts from you?
I co-sign what Jenny said. I think that is the most important thing. Few people these days have a Wikipedia presence or are eligible for one. So you have to be thinking about that broader aspect of what's out there that might be affecting people coming to find you, and look at how you can influence that the best you can.
Awesome. Well, thank you both for coming on and talking about this. Jenny, before we got started on the podcast today, we talked about doing a follow-up around AI. I think that's going to be an awesome episode that we're going to do as well. So if you're listening to this one and you liked it and you liked hearing us talk about all this stuff, be on the lookout for another episode with us on AI. So thank you all for listening today. Really appreciate you, and we'll see you next episode.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you guys. I appreciate it.